Jiraiya was loud. Kashin Koji silent. Jiraiya laughed. He dreamed. He had a love for very voluptuous women. He failed forward, and he believed, sometimes to a fault, that the future could be saved without sacrificing the present. Kashin Koji, he doesn't believe in any of those things. And that's what makes him so utterly terrifying. Because Kashin Koji isn't a corrupted version of Jiraiya. To just boil him down as being something like that is to do the character a grave disservice. He isn't a villain that is wearing a familiar face. He's something far more unsettling. He is arguably what Jiraiya might have become if he had stopped believing that people would choose the right future on their own. Two men with the same DNA, two men with the same chakra blueprint, but philosophically, they couldn't be further apart. In Boruto Two Blue Vortex, Kashin Koji has quietly become one of the most important ideological threats in the story itself, not because he wants power, not because he's obsessed, but because he's willing to pay any price to guarantee that outcome. And when you contrast that with the man that he was cloned from, his genetic parent Jiraiya, you realize something utterly chilling, especially when you take into account the Buddhism elements. Kashin Koji is arguably the inverse of Jiraiya, and the story, it is doing it deliberately. Join me in today's newest Naruto Explained video where your OBC, your original Boruto chief, is going to take a deep dive into why this departure of the Jiraiya and Kashin Koji dynamic, how it's a subversion of expectations, how these two men with the same DNA but two different worldviews is quietly becoming one of the most important thematic pieces in the Two Blue Vortex story, arguably more important than the eventual Boruto vs. Kawaki clash. Also, if you haven't already, make sure to check out the chapter review, which is up on the channel. It is linked in the end credits and the description box for anyone who's not seen it just yet. So first and foremost, we got to start with one of my favorite Naruto characters, Jiraiya, the dreamer who believed in the process itself. Jiraiya is necessary for us to understand Kashin Koji in terms of understanding what it is that Koji is written to reject. Jiraiya wasn't just a legendary shinobi. He was in so many ways a philosophical idealist. He believed that how you reach peace matters just as much as whether you reach peace at all. That belief, it defined his entire life. And even when he briefly was shown jaded, when Naruto was going all emo in the hospital after Sasuke whooped his ass at the end of Naruto Part 1, and Jiraiya's like, I'll put the Anbu Black Ops on you to keep guard over you if you don't give up on chasing Sasuke. Even Naruto eventually, through a child's eyes and a child's answers, got Jiraiya to believe in hope again. Jiraiya believed that the prophecy of the child of prophecy didn't give him certainty, but instead it gave him a responsibility. It was the hope. It was the possibility. Jiraiya believed that the future wasn't something that you forced into existence. It was something that you guided, that you nurture, and then you trusted. That was the whole point. Nagato, you might be the child of prophecy. Minato, you might be the child of prophecy. Naruto, you might be the child of prophecy. Guiding, nurturing, and then trusting that they would be able to bring about the future that you want to see happen. That's why ultimately he clung so hard to Naruto. Not because Naruto was guaranteed to save the world. Anybody that saw Naruto as a child would have looked at him and said, you're gonna bet on that guy? That guy can't even tell you what 4 plus 4 is. But instead, he chose Naruto because Naruto was very clearly being set up to reject the idea that shinobi are tools. Jiraiya's greatest lesson to Naruto wasn't the Rasengan, it wasn't the summoning jutsu. God knows it wasn't Sage Mode because Jiraiya never got to teach it to him. But instead, it was basically, outside of having the guts to never give up, it was also this fundamental understanding that the next generation, they decide what the future looks like. The future is yours and you choose what to do with it is basically one of the lessons that Jiraiya imparted into Naruto. Jiraiya accepted uncertainty. He accepted risk. His entire character arc can be boiled down to those two things on a subconscious level when you think about it. He accepted that peace might come after his death and that he might never see it. That's what makes his death so poetic. And when Jiraiya died, yeah, you could argue there were some regrets there. But notice he died with a smile on his face. He didn't die with despair. He believed that he made the right choice. even if it cost him everything. That's the key difference here. It goes back to it. He understood that his goal, his purpose in life was to guide, to nurture, and then to trust. Whereas someone like Kashin Koji, it's the complete opposite. He is the consequentialist who believes that only the outcomes matter. That's the key difference here. Kashin Koji shares Jiraiya's DNA, but not his faith in people. From his introduction in Boruto Part 1, Kashin Koji, he's always been framed as somebody who calculates human life the way that he calculates chakra. Look at how easily he was able to use someone like Ao. Look at how he was willing to kill Konoha, how he was willing to kill Team 7. Not out of cruelty, but at the time it was a necessity. This was before he saw all these alternate timelines. They were just a means to an end that he wanted to achieve. He needed to maintain his cover as a car inner. It mattered more than any of these individual lives. It wasn't until he saw Boruto at a coma still where he said, wait a second, this guy could maybe come in handy. He changed his approach at that moment. That tells us everything. Where Jiraiya saw people as an ends, Kashin Koji sees them merely as a means. And in Boruto Two Blue Vortex, that philosophy is only hardened. Kashin Koji, he doesn't argue morality. He doesn't debate ideals. He doesn't sit there and tell you, prove me wrong. He identifies with the worst possible outcome. That worst possible outcome being Jura's victory, and he eliminates anything that risks that from happening. If that means manipulation of somebody, fine, Jura can't win. If that means casualties, fine, that's acceptable, Jura can't win. If that means dragging people into irreversible decisions, fine, that's necessary, Jura can't win. Because to Kashin Koji, hesitation is a luxury that the world no longer has. Jura is an existential threat. Jura is somebody that has to be dealt with by any means necessary. And that's why, again, that ideology collision of Boruto versus Kashin Koji, if it seems like I'm harping on it a lot with this chapter, it's because we're close to something happening. Now, close in manga terms might not be next chapter. I'm low-key getting the vibes I did with the Omnipotence arc, where I kept saying when the code stuff was going on, we're close to a plot twist happening. Close in that instance ended up being a couple years. I feel like there's something coming. I don't think it'll be 2 years worth of wait, but there is something coming. A dam is about to break with these two characters, Boruto and Kashin Koji, and it's going to be irreparable. This is one of the few times where Boruto being a monthly manga, even though I've read multiple monthly manga, this is one of those times where I'm getting Attack on Titan flashbacks and I'm almost tempted to put the manga on hold for 6 to 7 months and then just go through and read. That way I can experience everything in one binge read. Obviously, I'm not going to do that, but I do feel like there is a wedge that is about to crack. So thematically, this is why we continue to see all these small minor clashes of Boruto and Kashin Koji. Boruto is Naruto's son in more ways than one. It's more than just having the blonde hair and the blue eyes. It's more than just being overly optimistic. Boruto, like his father, believes that people are not tools. Boruto, like his father, believes saving everyone matters, even when it's inefficient, even when it's unrealistic. You're not going to be able to save everybody. But Boruto believes you have a moral obligation to at least try. He believes that the outcome doesn't justify any cruelty. Kashin Koji fundamentally disagrees. To Kashin Koji, Boruto's ideals, they're dangerous. Because when people have ideals, they hesitate. When they have a moral compass, they hesitate. And the thing about the world that Boruto's characters are in, as well as our own world. In this world, a smile can get you killed. And in this world, like the Naruto world, hesitation can get you killed. Their conflict isn't about strength. It's about whether morality survives a apocalypse level set of stakes. Those stakes obviously being Jura. Kashin Koji does not hate Boruto. He's annoyed with him, but he doesn't hate him. He dismisses him, but he doesn't hate him. He simply believes that Boruto is a means to an end to take down Jura. And he believes in his heart, without sacrifices, Boruto will fail. And that belief, it is reinforced every time Boruto resists using people as expendable assets. It was not by mistake that Boruto was shown at the start of this arc, outright telling Kashin Koji, I want to know how many more people were supposed to die when we were out there in the land of wind. And Koji told him, look fam, I'm doing what I have to. I think that that is extremely important to take that into account. And that's why Inoji had to be set up as that line in the sand caught between these two characters. I think the best example here of where there is nowhere where Kashin Koji's philosophy is more clear than with Inoji and Yamanaka. Kashin Koji manipulates Inoji with surgical precision. Again, I said it in the chapter review. The way that he manipulated or attempted to manipulate Inoji, it would make Makima from Chainsaw Man get her panties completely wet. And that's saying something. If you read Chainsaw Man, you get why I'm saying that's a big deal. He frames the act as something that only the two of them will ever know. No evidence, no witnesses, no pesky moral fallout. And when Inoji hesitates, the human cost finally hits him. Kashin Koji, he doesn't argue at all. Like a true consequentialist, he just acts. By attacking the Mamushi clone himself, Koji ensures that the outcome will happen regardless of consent at all. And that is critical. Kashin Koji doesn't require agreement. He just requires results. Consent, it is optional. That sounds like a serial rapist, but I say that for the fact that it's the same type of mentality. Taking something, taking power, taking agency. As morally reprehensible as that is, Kashin Koji moves with that level of aggressiveness that you expect from a predator. He is somebody that believes power is success and that success in this instance is mandatory. That's the point where Kashin Koji fully separates himself from Jiraiya. And that is why I'm so intrigued with the character. Jiraiya, he would have stopped. And where Jiraiya would have stopped, Kashin Koji just doubles down. And that's kind of what makes Kashin Koji so unsettling. Because when you really just get down into his character, there is a severe level of selective morality. There are times when we see Kashin Koji, he's not above having people protected who can't fight, but at the same time, he doesn't necessarily prioritize the innocent. Instead, one of the things that he looks at is what value do they have? How would anything they do impact Shikamaru's standing as Hokage? In so many ways, he's weighing the benefit of innocent lives against the scale to make sure things don't tip him too far out of balance with Shikamaru and with Boruto. Two people it looks like are essential for Koji to accomplish his goals. He does not want that worst outcome with Jura to happen. Combatants, leaders, strategists, even civilians, they're all pieces on that shogi board. That's not cruelty. That's just calculation. Kashin Koji's already decided that the world, it's already on fire. The flames are spreading. The blaze hasn't gotten too out of control yet. But Kashin Koji views it from the perspective of, you don't argue ethics while the house itself is collapsing. Instead, you choose what will survive. Do you save the photos and all the memorabilia? Or do you take the things that you will need for tomorrow? Do you leave the sentimental stuff behind? Kashin Koji is that person that makes the decision. The house is on fire. My wife is here. My child is here. My mother is here. Who do I save? Which I'm going to put my question for you guys now. If you could only save one, who would you save? Very curious to see your thoughts. And for the 13% of ladies that are here on the channel, just swap out the wife with the husband and swap out the mother with the father. And to take it a step further, Jiraiya's death and the theme of Buddhist acceptance is exactly why we have Kashin Koji. So that's where that Buddhist framing has to be brought in because it's essential. As you guys know, Naruto does as a series, and so does Boruto, use a lot of Shinto and Buddhist themes. Jiraiya's death wasn't just tragic, it was also acceptance. In Buddhism, suffering is inevitable. You've heard me say it if you've been here long enough on the channel, that the Naruto story is a story of samsara, the cycle of life, death, and rebirth, the story of suffering. Attachment is the root of pain, but liberation comes from releasing control over outcomes. Jiraiya, he accepted uncertainty. He didn't need to see the future in order to believe in it. He just knew Naruto would get it done. Kashin Koji is the opposite. He is someone who cannot accept uncertainty. He has to see with 10 directions, which also has a strong Buddhist link to it. He has to see the future that he's trying to bring into light and into existence. If he doesn't see it, he does not believe in it. Kashin Koji is the opposite. Jiraiya died blind. Kashin Koji is alive with working eyes. Kashin Koji is someone who cannot accept that uncertainty. He is Jiraiya's karmic imbalance. If Jiraiya represented detachment from outcome, Kashin Koji represents attachment to outcome above all else. In Buddhist terms, Koji is trapped in that cycle of samsara, repeating these cycles of suffering because he cannot let go of control. And that is extremely ironic because he is the rebirth of Jiraiya genetically. It's almost as if the story was telling us Jiraiya is still trapped in that cycle of samsara because his clone is trapped in that cycle of samsara. That's why Kashin Koji thematically exists as he does. And I do feel like this is setting up a final question inevitably for Kashin Koji. That's the brilliance in Kashin Koji's writing, is that Boruto isn't framing him as being wrong. He might be morally wrong, but it's not framing him as being objectively wrong. His methods work. They're effective. They're logical. On paper, they save the most number of lives. But that's the uncomfortable part, because when the stakes are extinction level, Kashin Koji, he sounds reasonable, but the story is not asking whether or not Koji is reasonable. It's asking whether or not Kashin Koji is morally right. It's asking whether becoming someone like Kashin Koji is worth the future that you're creating. Just like Jiraiya had to choose with Naruto, Kashin Koji will have to choose something as well. And when that moment comes, the question won't be, does this save the world? I believe the question that Kashin Koji is going to be presented with thematically is, what kind of world does this create? And I think just like with Jiraiya, Kashin Koji is going to have to put his faith in Boruto. And that's what makes this inverse legacy and the parallels, and seeing how they land the plane with Kashin Koji's character is so fascinating. Jiraiya died believing that the future should choose itself. Kashin Koji lives believing that the future must be forced and created. Same blood, same legacy, but opposite paths. That's the genius that Boruto Two Blue Vortex is, that it's refusing to tell you which one is correct. But the scariest truth, in a world that is facing Jura, you could argue someone like Jiraiya may fail, and that Kashin Koji may be exactly what the world needs, even if it means him abandoning the very soul of what it is that Jiraiya fought to protect. And yet at the same time, much like his genetic parent Jiraiya, it may not be on him, and it likely will not be on him, to usher in that future that he sees. And that is the beautiful message about it. Because at the end of the day, part of the human experience is understanding that when you don't have control over some things, you just have to have faith. Obviously, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, clicking on the left, check out that chapter review, or clicking on the right to check out more videos from other two anime channels where I talk about non-Naruto anime and manga.